Somebody mentioned that they really like the color scheme, how like I matched the mic with the lights in the back, and I want to get some more stuff in the back, but it's all just aesthetic, so the video is not just bland. But that's besides the point. Today, we are talking about the character design or the design of units, their kits. And honestly, if we're looking at it realistically, they make no sense. Now, I have a very good explanation as to why I'm saying that, but I could also very much argue for the point of them making a lot of sense. But I'm going to describe what I would think their process is when they're designing a unit. I know a lot of work actually does go into it. As a guy that has a computer science degree, coding and all of that is not easy. I guess if you get used to it, it is. But even the guys that are like the most proficient coders, they're still going on Google and typing in how to change the color of. It gets like that for the coders, man. But as players, it's very easy to just look at the unit and be like,
alright, cool, they did this, this, and this, and honestly, they just did a bad job. They're lazy, they don't know what they're doing, they don't test their units.
It's very easy to do that from a player perspective, but at the same time, them as developers are aware of that. So pretty much they just have to get their job right, and that's just the end of it. It is quite harsh, but that's literally how most consumers will look at it, because they're only there to receive the product, and if there's a product on the line, if it's a rubbish product, they're gonna complain about the product, and that's all it is. Anyways, we've had a lot of units in Dragon Ball Legends, and I'm just gonna name a couple off the top of my head. If your unit gets brought up here, that's tough, my guy, but that unit was terrible. Number one, we got Boo Bros. Boo Bros was abysmal, man. They came with a new prep gauge and they thought they were gonna take over. They looked good at the start, I'm not going to lie, but they were a major letdown, man. That's so unfortunate. Ultra legendary Super Saiyan Broly, he's actually pretty good, but the timing of his drop was just so poor. He dropped at a time where he wasn't actually needed in the game, and there was already a lot of movies units making the team so solid that just adding him to the roster pretty much just did nothing. So to spend Chrono Crystals on him, you're literally just spending your Chrono Crystals out of preference rather than a need to make that team more than it actually is. He wasn't that bad again, but by the time he might have been useful, he had already been power crept. So just get him out of here. Legendary finish Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. My god, what a headliner for the 3rd anniversary. The fact that he was almost getting taken over by the antagonist headliner is so insane, man. They really had to drop that plat ASAP to make sure that he was up to scratch, because on his release, he was not cooking. And I think the last one I'll mention is just Shallot. The whole sparking transformation, they really just kind of sold. He had so much potential, honestly, and especially looking back at his previous forms such as Super Saiyan 3, the release of Super Saiyan God, Shallot was really cooking. But now that they upgraded him to a sparking, it's like he regressed. It's not that he's necessarily bad, but in comparison to the PvP meta or anybody else in the game at the time of the sparking release for Shallot, it was just so pointless to release him. It was literally just nothing. It was meant to be something so hype going to Super Saiyan Blue, the highest form of God besides from Vegeta and Goku's equivalent forms, but they really just sold it. So maybe they should drop a Super Saiyan 4 Shallot now. Back on track here, enough slander. Let's get into my speculation of how they actually work units, because I literally feel like this is the process they take when making units. Okay, so number one, I'm gonna call it the picking / choosing section. Basically what they're gonna do here is decide what unit they want to work on. They're gonna get the source material from the anime. So if I'm gonna give you an example just because it's easy to use, we're gonna use Ultra Vegeta Blue, and you can also use Ultra Gogeta Blue. They both work the same way because they're very easy examples. Gogeta Blue has his counter, so with his green card it's the Mudadana if it's the LF, but with the Ultra it's his counter where he actually takes away blast attacks and then activates the counter which you can chain blue cards into. Ultra Vegeta Blue, it's when he clashed with Corrupt Zamasu, allowing him to actually get priority in that example, and you can chain a blue card into it, and the ultimate, by the way. So with the choosing / picking whole segment of them developing a character, it's the source material, it's the animations, it's how it looks more than anything else, and how they're gonna form the unit, because there's a lot of units in the game. They might be a recreation of the exact same unit, but they might just do it in a different way or slightly change the source material. We've seen it with so many Vegetos that we have in game. We've seen it with so many Gokus we have in game. You might even get the same Goku from the same arc, but they just use different specific moments in the battle that he had. Specifically, Super Saiyan Goku is an example of that. The first Nameku, he's specifically a counter with his blue card, but the newest one that we got, he moves in a way where it's a full ultimate arts attack when he's doing his legendary finish. Completely different, but they're the exact same unit, and it's just based on the source material. That's pretty much the main thing for the picking and choosing section. There's not much more to go about it. Of course, they're the designing stuff like that, but this is not a lesson on how to produce a Dragon Ball Legends unit. It's just really the whole thought process that they go through, in my opinion anyways. Going into number 2 now, I'd say number 2 would be about the bulk of the kit. Now, when I say the bulk, it's going to be in direct correlation to the source material. So if you look at so many units in the game, you might think, well, this has no correlation to obviously what happened in the anime. Well, if you look at the animations, of course it correlates to the anime. Of course it's going to, because that's the unit, right? It's based on that. But then outside of that, how can they transfer that to the kit? I said this previously and I just can't be asked to find the clip, but for the guys that watch every single reveals and stuff, you remember there was a time where Toshi literally said they tried to design the units based on what happened in the anime. So me as a player taking that in, I would think that they start with the bulk section that relates to the source material. Like I said, I'm using Ultra Gogeta Blue as an example. It would be his counter. Ultra Vegito Blue, they wanted to make the clash thing his biggest thing, so they did that. They also took the final Kamehameha, the new tap mechanic that they actually implemented. So you can clearly see it's evident in those two cases. There's a lot of cases as well. So for example, I like to throw Super Saiyan 3 under the bus, and this video idea actually stemmed from me remembering a conversation I actually had with Ryuden.
Sorry to do this to Super Saiyan 3, but I also feel no remorse.
Me and Ryuden had a conversation on Twitter. It wasn't very long, but I was essentially saying that Super Saiyan 3 units in Dragon Ball Legends are not going to be very good unless they just add some ridiculous stuff to them, because in the anime, Super Saiyan 3 is a burst energy type of transformation, especially now that we've got other forms heading into Super. Really and truly, it doesn't last long, and it's really just a big surge of energy so that you can get stronger attacks off. That's basically just writing it down simply in terms of how Goku used it. It was very evident how much of a burst transformation it was when in Super he went up against Beerus, and Beerus just shut him down disgustingly. But it's not the point that it's bad in the anime, it's more so how that transfers in games. If you have any character that's very strong at the start of the battle, generally speaking, and gets weaker as the battle progresses, in most cases, especially when the game develops to high levels with support units and team chemistry and functioning, whatever, you will then very much see how useless that unit becomes, and that's why a lot of Super Saiyan 3 units do not shine. I gave a list of examples where that's actually shown, and I feel like a big case is when they actually shown it through the Gammas. If you take the Gammas, they had the Dragon Balls, and that kind of represents the sacrifice that happened to Gamma 2. But then to pretty much end the conversation, Ryuden replied with, yeah, I agree with that, but I mean deliberately making the units underwhelming or poor aging to reflect the form itself. Unfortunately, they just keep missing the mark with units I like.
He's referring to Super Saiyan 3.
I am cursed. Now, with him saying that, this actually leads into my third point, and this is where they often miss the mark. They just completely go off the ball and things just start to not make sense. So number 3 would essentially be buffing them. Once you get the bulk and you have the animations and everything like that, you need to make the kit so that it's usable in game. You can't just have the bulk, which is in relation to the source material. You need to add everything else that makes the unit usable and actually valuable in game. So I'm sure most of you guys know what's very effective in Dragon Ball Legends. Things like vanish reduction, things like blocking main abilities, things like card draw speed. The devs know all of this, I'm pretty sure, because even Toshi plays the game. We know all of this. So there's certain factors that clearly make units edge over the other. There's some units that have good things, there's some units that get bad things, there's some units that get things that are okay, some units get things that are just amazing. And this is where they really mess up, because they can't just leave the bulk, they need to add the extra buffs, and it depends on how much they add to that unit. So typically, you would see with festival anniversary headliners, they go overboard. I don't know how they missed it with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, but I guess they would just focus on the revival thing, I don't know. And then sometimes in between those dry months, so let's just say September, even going further back to February, March, typically you would see bad units or units that are not especially desired, but sometimes you get crazy units, especially right before the anniversary. Let's just take tag droids, man. They were a menace. Everybody knows that. Them in the game right before MUI dropped, I got a headache, man. I got a headache. Oh, at the end of the day, I pretty much just think it comes down to them knowing their game. If it very much feels like they don't, they probably don't. But at the same time, it's not as easy as you think, so I think it's best to give them the benefit of the doubt sometimes. But with this thought process of how I assume they are producing units, if we get to step 3, at that point, it's really just a factor of what units in the game do you want to be very overpowered, what units in the game do you want to be very supportive, very defensive, technical. All of that pretty much just comes down to having a plan And at the end of the day, some units get the upper end, some units get the lower end, and that's just the end of it. Now in the comment section below, there's probably a unit that you really wanted to be really good, but they just got the short end of the stick. Some units actually get a good kit, but they don't get the stats to come along with it. So it's also just a numbers issue. There's so many things that go around, but leave a unit down below that you feel really got shafted by the devs, and there's no way around it. In my case, I'm definitely going Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. He should have been way better, and I hope they do a better job this year.
Yes, it's the Super Saiyan 4 agenda in your face again.
With their release,
assuming this is all headcanon,
of Ultra Gogeta 4. We want that guy. I want that guy at least anyways. I know there's a lot of guys in the comment section that do. So yeah, I don't think I should end this video without a solution, and I feel like if we're having a discussion, I should really offer a solution and not just complain. So I'm gonna do that. If I was to offer a solution, I would evaluate the top 10,000 in ranked PvP, because those are the guys that play at the highest level. Let's not also take away the fact that at that rank, you are able to get the highest amount of chrono crystals. So if we take those guys who are actually competing because they want the highest rewards, we'd be able to see what's actually valuable in the game. And from there, you'd be able to improve upon or change the meta based on what you add to new units that are going to be releasing. Let me give you an example. I'm gonna take regeneration right here. In the meta right now, there's Future, there's Universe Rep, there's Androids, and I'd say those three are the main three teams that you're really gonna see. Regeneration has a lot of potential, but it feels like they're just missing one thing. They're kind of just one step behind, which is why I'm using them as an example. Ultra Kid Buu was a very delicious drop because he provides them almost everything they need, but other units in the game have been power crept. But Cell exists, so you already have two nice spots there. But I'm thinking there's a third thing that's missing. Now this third unit could be the exact unit that gives regeneration what they need. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's within the name. Health. Regeneration back in the day used to thrive on health so insanely. And I think they could thrive off a unit that heals the team consistently. Now there's a couple ways you can do that, through their green card, a main ability, something that gradually heals through time accounts. But just for this solution here, I'm gonna take something similar to Ultra Instinct Saiyan, where he actually gets buffed based on how long he's standing in the battlefield. So with this new unit, let's just use a new Piccolo for example, even though they dropped one recently. This Piccolo, for every 2 time accounts he's in the battlefield, he heals him and his teammates by like 3%. It maxes out at 10, then you'd have to re-switch, and there's obviously 10 timer counts before you can switch back in. But regeneration is meant to heal, so if they don't thrive in other sectors, at least keep them alive. And I think that would make a big impact to how regeneration moves. Of course, it needs to be gate kept with regeneration, and doing that alone would make regeneration a good team. Gatekeeping is very important. The leader slot messed that up. Let me know what you guys think about that solution I gave, and let me know what you guys think about the whole setup of how they plan things. Of course, it's all headcanon, it's all just speculation. I'm just giving my ideas and thoughts for the sake of the discussion, but there's a lot of cases where units are literally just bad. The meta in itself is very bad. I'm not going to lie, everybody knows that everybody's using the same teams. It's more reason to just bring up this discussion. But yeah, I'm gonna leave the video like that. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys. Press that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.